Vision for Canada. We need a Canada that's a leader internationally. We used to be a leader, and we're not anymore. And it's not just about losing Security Council votes. It's more about our moral leadership. And I really want to see a Canada that's a moral leader, especially on the global climate emergency. We have a serious problem for our planet, and I really believe that unless Canada steps up and shows the way, it's going to be very difficult for us to sort out this global problem we have. If we, as the 4th largest fossil fuel producer in the world, and the country that subsidizes fossil fuel per capita more than any other country in the world, could get off fossil fuels onto renewables without leaving anybody behind, it would be an example for the world. And then we could help other countries with some sort of moral authority. But right now we have none, and people can see that. They can see the Trudeau government saying one thing and doing another, internationally and at home. And that's a serious problem for Canada. But I'm also convinced that that's not going to happen. Canada will not become a global leader unless we, as a Green Party, get more seats in the House of Commons. I really think it's as practical as that. We need more seats in the House of Commons, not just because we like having seats in the House of Commons, but it's to hold the government's feet to the fire. My campaign team says, don't use that analogy, it sounds too aggressive. But just to hold the government accountable might be a better way of saying it. Because unless we have Greens holding the government accountable, we'll have more of the same. You know, in 2015, Trudeau said they would cut fossil fuel subsidies to zero. And now, like I said earlier, we subsidize more than any other country in the world per capita. Say one thing, do the opposite. And we need Greens in there to call out the government and say, keep to your promises, stick to your promises, deliver on what you say you'll deliver on. And so, how do we get more seats in the House of Commons? I don't think it's rocket science. It's about being organized, much better organized than we are now, in 338 ridings across Canada. It's about having the right kind of message and right communication approach with Canadians. You know, I met with the mayor of Niagara Falls yesterday, and he said, you Greens always talk about the facts and the reports, and no one wants to hear about that. He says, I used to be in sales. He really does. He's a typical old-style politician. He says, in sales we used to say, facts tell, stories sell. So tell stories, you know, tell stories about yourself and about your friends and your kids. Don't tell us what the IPCC report said about, you know, the global greenhouse gas reduction targets that, you know, should be said in the Paris conference. And he went on rhyming stuff off, you know. And I think there's a lot to that. We need to be organized on the ground, and we need to be able to tell true stories that resonate with Canadians and that get people excited to actually join us and, you know, come out to a park on a sunny evening and come together and share food and create a sense of community as well. I think the Greens really need that before we're going to win seats in the House of Commons. And this is the last part of my talk. To get there, we need the right kind of leader. If we get the wrong kind of leader chosen in this race, and by the way, we have fantastic candidates. I think you all have probably followed it a little bit. 8 other fantastic candidates who really have a lot to offer in this race. And I respect every one of them for different reasons. But my sense is what the Green Party needs is somebody who can pull people together, who is a uniter, somebody who can help people to cooperate, somebody who knows how to organize on the ground, somebody who crosses the country twice and listens to Greens. No holds barred, any question, any comment. We have a dialogue. Somebody who can also have a bit of fun along the way so other Greens have fun. This shouldn't be a serious, painful business. It should be a lot of fun. And we should be creating a sense of community and togetherness. So that's the kind of leadership I offer. I'm the only candidate in the race who's crossed the country twice. I'm the only candidate in the country who's campaigned for the Green Party from Atlantic Canada to British Columbia on winning Green campaigns. Federally, provincially, and municipally. In BC, we have municipal Greens. I think that kind of experience is very important. I've done it in English and French as well. I'm not one of the candidates, and there are quite a few who are really learning French on the job, and they'll tell you that, they're learning French. We need a leader on day one who can campaign in French, who can win leaders' debates in French, who can campaign on the doorstep and convince people to come over to us. I've done that in Ottawa, Vanier, Eastern Ontario, New Brunswick. We campaigned for Megan Mitton in a very francophone riding. She won by 11 votes in Memramcook-Tantramar, the home of Acadian French Canadians. And when you win by 11 votes, every volunteer says, well, it was a good thing I showed up. And I could tell you stories about that campaign. Megan Mitten is a fantastic candidate. They're in an election as of yesterday again, right? So New Brunswick Greens are back on the campaign trail. So those are some of the things I offer that are unique, that I don't think any of the other candidates offer in the same way I do. But I'm not saying bad things about them. And it's not just because I'm a nice guy. Some people, and we're going to come to this, say, well, you're just a nice guy. It's not really that. We have a preferential ballot, a ranked ballot, right? So on your ballot, when you get to vote, you can write 1, 2, 3 next to our names, right? And so you might have another favorite candidate, which is perfectly fine. I totally respect that. All I ask is that you put me down as number 2. And if you don't want that, then number 3. But the ranked ballot is very, very important, because if you don't rank the candidates you like, you might end up with a candidate you really don't like. So I encourage you to consider how the ranked ballot works. I'm happy to elaborate on that. And if you don't put me first, after today, I think it'll be hard for you to resist. But the question that was asked, just to get things going, was about this nice guy thing. And I've heard this quite a bit. David, we need a leader who's tough and strong. And, you know, nice guys finish last. And so here's my answer on that, my brief answer, and then I'll turn it over to others who might want to talk about this. My answer is Mike Schreiner. Look at Mike Schreiner. I campaigned for 2 weeks for him before he won his last election. He's a very nice guy. He campaigned 3 times before he got elected. He moved to Guelph, right? He did everything that was necessary. His key qualities are he's a gentleman, he listens, he's very thoughtful, and he works really hard. That's my model. No one is working harder than me in this race. Go to my davidmerner.com page, go to the events page. You'll see all the events we have planned and all the events we've done already on our archive page. There's nobody who's done half of what we have. Hard work is the most important thing in politics. Barack Obama says politics is 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration. He's got it exactly right. And so I'm going to turn it over to you guys. But if you go leave this meeting and do one thing, just go and recruit one other Green. Make a call, talk to your spouse, talk to family, friends, neighbors. If everybody in our party did that, we double the vote from 23,000 to 46,000. This is not much perspiration to ask of each one of you. Just go and invite somebody to join the Green Party. And especially if they're a person who's underrepresented in politics, maybe economically marginalized, maybe a person of color, an Indigenous person, just go and ask them. Tell them we have a sale on, it's only $10 today. And bring them in, because that's what we need to do. It's a small amount of perspiration, and the Green Party needs to start working in that way. Every single one of us, not just the leadership candidates, not just the leader, it's every single one of us. That's what will transform the Green Party. Over to you. What do you guys think about these questions? Did you want to mention this?
Well, no, it's just that I do think a more forceful personality sells to the people.
Yeah.
And Mike's a very inspirational guy.
Very
as well.
inspirational.
So he's got a lot on the inspiration scale as
yeah.
well. And he's always talking about the vision. Too.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about
where we go for Canada.
Yeah, but you're also talking about the method and all that, which impresses me and is really important.
Yeah.
But we also need the vision part. Elizabeth was really good at that.
She's good at that too. What do you guys all think about that? What do you all think?
I mean, we want leaders who inspire us.
Yeah. That's it.
That's what everybody wants. They want our politicians to be inspiring and to have vision and not just to be plodding along.
Yeah.
Do you think it's true that most people vote because of the personality of the individual rather than policies? Do you think policies matter?
Look at the states.
I think a lot of people do look at the leader.
Yeah.
And they say, what kind of a person is this? Is this a person we trust? Is this a person we could go for a beer with? Is this a person we like? Is this a person we understand? You know, somebody who speaks our language. I think those are the kinds of things that people look for in a leader.
Well, I'm going to ask this question, and I know it's completely unfair.
No.
I'm
Do we
just
need
thinking-
another white male as a leader of a major public party?
It's there,
Yeah.
right? And
I'm so glad you asked.
I'm sorry to
because
ask.
I know, and most
You know?
people don't have the courage, so I salute
It's
you,
like,
Andrea.
yeah, like we gotta
just to make you feel
represent
better.
women and diversity.
Yeah,
so.
totally. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. And just to make you feel better, I have 4 daughters, and one of them isn't convinced by my answer yet. The other 3 are saying, okay, they're all feminists. My wife's a feminist, but that's the first thing they asked me when we talked about it, and it's a totally fair question, and I'm really glad when people ask. So here's my answer. I tell a story about Kim Campbell. I worked at the Department of Justice for 16 years, and for 3 of those years, Kim Campbell was our minister. I worked in the Deputy Minister's office. I was a public servant, and she was in, obviously, the Minister's office. She was the Minister of Justice, right? And she was one of the best ministers of justice we ever had. Kim Campbell was our first Prime Minister, woman Prime Minister too, right?
And only.
As Attorney General and Minister of Justice, she was a total rock star. She had a fantastic team. My boss, the Deputy Minister, was a genius. He knew how to work with different ministers, and they got on to this equality-seeking mandate. She was really interested in youth justice. She was a transformative leader in our system. She went on to become Prime Minister, and most people would say she was a total failure. Her party went from a majority government to 2 seats. It wasn't her fault, but she wasn't properly supported. She had terrible political staff in the Prime Minister's office who really didn't support her properly and didn't understand her. She had an organization, a Conservative Party organization, in total disarray. There was internal warfare there. And what the Conservatives did to Kim Campbell was a total disgrace.
Yeah.
She could have been one of the greatest prime ministers we had. That's exactly the situation we're in the Green Party right now. We just lost the chair of our federal council 2 weeks ago. Our federal council is at war internally with each other right now. There are huge staffing problems inside the Green Party. This is the time for somebody who's very experienced in political organization, who understands campaigning in his, her, or their bones, and who is able to sort out a terrible mess. I worked in government as a lawyer for 28 years. Half of that was in dispute resolution. This is my profession, bringing people together, helping to sort out messes in government departments and in organizations. The last 10 years was more focused on deep transformational change in the justice system. And any of you who have been through a divorce or probated a will know our justice system is a mess. It's designed for judges and lawyers. It's not designed for Canadians and for the users of the system. But we cracked the code on justice transformation in BC. It wasn't just me. I had a team of 15 or 20 people who were really outside the box thinkers. And we'd failed so many times, we figured out how to get around the failures and not fail again. And people were flying in by the end of it from UK, Australia, Singapore, the US, different Canadian jurisdictions to figure out, how did you crack the code on justice transformation when all the senior judges, all the senior lawyers, and your own bosses in the ministry hated it? They didn't want to change because they knew it would basically put large chunks of their business out of business. That's the kind of leadership we need. And if we put some of the candidates in this race into that situation, we will be wasting their potential. We'll be doing what was done to Kim Campbell. These people should be the next leaders. Any one of them could be rock star leaders, especially if they were on a team of leaders. My idea is to form a team of rivals, bring all these 8 other candidates together, put them into positions of responsibility. For the ones who can't really speak French, they speak an academic French, which wouldn't be understood in Quebec or New Brunswick, get them out on the road and help them to get out on the road. I think most of them would love it, right? For those that have great policy minds, I mean, we have an unbelievable PhD in astrophysics, a medical doctor known around the world for public health and environment, the link hits right. We have a person with a master's in international relations from Princeton. We have an unbelievable crew of people here, but it would be a disgrace for our party to throw them into this mess without having the background they need to drive deep transformational change through our party and also through Canadian politics by holding the Liberals to account. So those are some of the things. I mean, I haven't talked about all my background. I used to be in the Liberals. I know them inside and out. I was on their national board. I ran for them. And it's a total disgrace how they've basically said one thing systematically and done the opposite. The Green Party needs to hold them to account in a much, much more aggressive, frankly, ruthless way, and we haven't done it. We need to learn some of the lessons from the old line parties without compromising our values. So the key is to stick to our 6 core values, but also learn how to run a campaign, how to stick to a message, how to avoid talking about abortion for 5 months of a political campaign when it's clear we're a pro-choice party, how to avoid talking about separatists in New Brunswick. Why did we talk about them for 4 days at the start of our last campaign? No discipline, no message, no organization. And if we throw people in who don't have the experience, who have never run on a winning campaign, who have never organized in an organization that is resisting change, it would be very unfair to those people, and it would be also unfair to the candidates who put their name on the list. I ran last time in 2019 in the Esquimalt Saanich Sooke. We came second, we were on track for victory, and then we started going off track by talking about abortion and a whole bunch of other stuff that was very undisciplined and meant that people like me and Russell Coyne, Victoria, started sliding in the polls, and there was nothing we could do to reverse it. We can't squander these opportunities, and we can't wait for people to learn on the job. The best science says we have 5 to 7 years before climate change is irreversible, and this is a 2 or 3 year job just to get in the game. Before we're competent, we're ready to win. I think we can be ready to win. If we could win 15, 20 seats in the next campaign, that would be a fantastic breakthrough.